Did you know that one of the most largest gingerbread houses built was actually built in the USA? That's right, it was built in the United States of America. USA, USA. Surprisingly, it wasn't actually built in Germany, Sweden, or Belgium, which is really weird because mostly those countries are well known for making delicious chocolate and pastries. Information is really cool because this shows that throughout history, desserts and pastries have evolved through time, and how it not only evolved through one country, but it spread throughout the whole world. Each one of those countries is well known for making delicious desserts. And today, the dessert that I will be going over bread pudding. I'll be going over why bread pudding is so delicious. Number two, the history of bread pudding. And last but not least, how to make bread pudding, which is what everyone's probably interested in. Because who wouldn't be? It's bread pudding. It's probably, if you haven't tried it, it's really good. Now, originally, bread pudding is something that you make. It's something you bake in the oven and cook. And the reason it's so delicious is because, number one, it indulges the senses. You get a good sense of the smell when you're cooking it and when you're adding the ingredients. Number two, it's super fun. Like you always love to see like how cooks will stir it together, and the time it'll take to make it is super awesome. And last but not least, it is really, really easy to make. It's really easy. Like, I'll explain it when we go later on, but it's super fun. Now, let's go over history. Originally, bread pudding started from the timeline of the 11th and 12th century of England. And originally, it was more of a poor man's food, or mostly a lower commons type of food. Not a lot of the wealthy people ate it during when it first started out in the 11th and 12th century. Over time, when the culture evolved, they started to actually, the rich and upper class started to actually start cooking bread pudding. The reason why actually the under the upper class would not eat it was because they thought that it was just common day old bread, because people who were poor would use the leftover bread and make it into this kind of dessert. So that's why a lot of people, the upper class, would not eat it. And actually, the cool thing about this too is that it actually has grown through other countries. Other countries have actually made bread pudding. Like if we go to Mexico, right here, there's a way you can make a bread pudding. It's called a capirotada, which is the Mexican style bread pudding, which has a similar ingredients if you look into it on how to make it. Now, if you go to India, Egypt, you will see that they have their own version of bread pudding called the Omi Ali, which, I'm sorry, correct me if I get the names wrong. It's actually another style of bread pudding, an Egyptian dessert. Now, here's another one, which is actually cool because it's a fried bread pudding. This is a Shali Tuda recipe. I've actually never made these before, but now I'm more interested from researching it. And then last but not least, we have another version of bread pudding, which is the American style typical day-old bread pudding, which is what I'll be going over now. It's a pretty simple recipe to make. Usually you start out with these ingredients. You will need unsalted butter, 12 stale old glazed donuts, 4 large eggs, 4 egg yolks, 4 cups of half and half, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and we have half a tablespoon of salt, and we needed 1 lemon, that's vine-zested lemon, a quarter cup of raspberry preserves, powdered sugar, and heavy whipping cream. Those last 2 options are actually optional. If you really want to add like a good delicious side to the top, you can do that. And if we go down more, to see, simply put, what you do is you get those ingredients, you add them in a pot, you stir them all together, and eventually you get a spray pan and you spray it over the pan and you put it inside the pan. From there, you preheat the oven to 325 degrees, and afterwards you put it in the oven to last for 50 to 60 minutes. It takes some time to make, so you'll have to wait. And afterwards, you finish it, you can add the garnish of whipped cream or powdered sugar to add a sweet taste to it. Afterwards, it's delicious. So today what I went over for the presentation was, I went over bread pudding and why it's so delicious, the history of bread pudding, starting from the 11th, 12th century of England, and concluding with how to make bread pudding. Thank you so much. Yeah.